So the next speaker, I told you this session is very personal to me. The next speaker is my best friend from medical school and his wife. Both of them are my best friends. And they have a child with Prader-Willi syndrome. And they're very smart and very successful, and they created something amazing for the disease. Noam Josephy, Dr. Noam Josephy, okay, I have some challenging with the lights here, but I'll do it. Is the MD, Vice President and General Manager, Innovation and AI, Abiomed, J&J, MedTech. Noam is currently in Boston, where he lives with Hani, both of them my best friends, really. We've been in many things together, and he's going to join us in Zoom for the questions. He pre-recorded his talk before, so we can watch it, and then we're going to put Noam on Zoom, so you will have the honor to ask him some questions. So Noam is going to talk about Prader-Willi syndrome and parent professional perspective on a rare disease therapy development. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Noam Josephy. I am sorry I cannot be there with you in person, and thank you for allowing me to share some personal perspectives. This is our son Eli. My best friend and partner in life, Hani, who is a nephrologist at Boston University, and myself have 4 kids, Matan, Ro'i, Eli, and Naomi. Eli is now 10. And 2 weeks after he was born, Eli was diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome. But before we go back to Eli and Prader-Willi, I would like to give you some personal background about my professional journey and how I'm trying to leverage it for developing therapies for this rare syndrome. I started my professional medical journey in the Technion Medical School. I'm honored to be Professor Dudu Gad's classmate in the Atuda military program. After completing my medical training, I started my full-time military service, serving in the Infantry Special Forces and later on as the Chief Medical Officer of the submarine flotilla. After completing 5 years of service, I went back to school with some change of direction and got my MBA at the MIT Sloan School of Management. And shortly after that, joined Abiomed, in which I am now part of the leadership team. Abiomed's mission is recovering hearts and saving lives. We have the world's smallest heart pump, helping to treat patients in various states of heart failure. Abiomed is a true wonder in the medtech world, with a strong track record of consistently delivering great results. I joined Abiomed 11 years ago and had the opportunity to build the venture arm, our clinical research, strategic partnerships, and in my current role, leading Abiomed's global product development and innovation. In May 2022, Abiomed was acquired by J&J in the largest medtech deal of the year. My journey in Abiomed and as Eli's father has given me a very unique perspective on finding therapies for a complex condition. PWS is a rare genetic syndrome caused by a deletion of the paternally expressed genes on chromosome 15. The syndrome affects 1 in 15,000 births. In the United States, there are fewer than 50,000 individuals with PWS. Most of them are under the age of 18. PWS is characterized by hormonal deficiencies, hyperphagia, obesity risk, and behavioral challenges. Individuals with PWS have a strong preoccupation with food and develop a food-seeking behavior, hyperphagia. And without specific behavioral protection, PWS is life-threatening. Conducting clinical studies in PWS is challenging due to the rarity of the syndrome and the variation in phenotypes. However, if a few aspects of the syndrome are solved through safe and effective therapies, individuals with PWS can have prosperous and independent lives. But for that to become a reality, we need a new framework for PWS therapy development. A technology or compound is a therapy only when it is available for all patients. Anything short of that is only a promise. The framework I'm proposing has 3 elements: safety, effectiveness, and patient preference. The PWS therapy development is not very crowded, but it is a tight community. Over the last 10 years, I was involved with various attempts to develop therapies in PWS. I have no commercial or financial ties to any of the companies. My only goal is to have a therapy available for Eli and his fellow PWS kids. Most of the attempts have not been successful, and some are still in development. But I will focus on one that is bringing us a lot of hope combined with a lot of concerns. The hope is because it works. The concern is because the current regulatory framework is challenging. Diazoxide is a known compound. It is being used to treat hypertensive emergencies and hyperinsulinemia. Diazoxide affects kids with PWS through various mechanisms ranging from effects on the central nervous system to target organs. DCCR is designed to improve solubility and create a more predictable level to allow easier use. Phase 1 and 2 for DCCR development have been successful, and I will focus on the ongoing Phase 3 clinical program. Destiny PWS was a small, multi-center, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. It was followed by an open-label safety extension study. The primary outcome was the hyperphagia score. The secondary outcome including clinical assessment, and in addition, the study involved collection of biomarkers to measure the physiological effects of DCCR. C601 had a 2-week run-in to eliminate the strong placebo effect observed in PWS clinical studies. The RCT included a 13-week double-blinded treatment followed by C602, which was the open-label extension. The first patient was enrolled on May 9, 2018. As of March 2020, there were a total of 127 patients enrolled, 85 in the treatment arm and 42 in the control arm. But then COVID hit. After March 1st, most kids were at home. All office visits and study visits became virtual. And the one thing that PWF kids care about the most, routine, was completely disrupted. And the results was an overwhelming anxiety, taking over every aspect of the syndrome. Speaking from our own personal experience, maintaining any kind of routine was the most challenging part during these times, which elevated and amplified all of the behavioral challenges. As of October 2022, there were 83 kids enrolled in C602, the open-label extension of the study. And what were the results? When analyzing the data based on the original statistical analysis plan, the difference in hyperphagia was small and not statistically significant. There were some signal for an effect in the secondary endpoints. However, if we cut the data at the March 1st date, the day when the world changed and more radically for PWS kids than for any typical kid, the data tell us a different story. The difference in hyperphagia is both clinically meaningful and statistically significant. The difference in the secondary endpoint is sustained and reinforced. The behavioral endpoints show the same highly statistically significant difference. And what gives us great confidence, the effect we see through March 1st, is the fact that the biomarker measurements show a difference in both analyses, full data set and the one cut on March 1st, 2020. As far as I know, a placebo effect does not exist for adiponectin levels. So, does that mean the drug is effective? Well, FDA said this isn't enough. And this is what got me involved as a parent professional. For us, living daily in the PMA world of medtech, we've learned to appreciate the FDA's practical approach, exercising the full scope of its authority to weigh the risk-benefit of a new drug or device and approve new therapies if shown to be safe and effective. The FDA has the mandate to evaluate effectiveness based on the totality of data, even if it goes beyond the purity of any pre-specified analysis of the study. No one could have pre-specified the COVID-19 pandemic. But this was FDA's response, and the journey continues. The next step was to compare the results in the original study with real-world data using a propensity match cohort. The path for PWS registry, with over 650 patients enrolled, sponsored by the FPWR, was used for that purpose. Over time, the change in hyperphagia from baseline only increased. The change was also markedly different than the one seen in the propensity match cohort from PWS, Path PWS. The change and the difference were consistent across all behavioral measurements. And those changes were consistent across the biomarkers as well at the 1-year mark. So, is it effective? When you take the puristic statistical approach, then maybe. But the consistency of the results combined with the long-term sustained effect and the biomarker measurements, this is where I combine my professional and personal point of view and say yes. When we deal with any kind of development, drug, device, there are two fundamental questions to be asked. One, is it good enough to make a difference? Two, is it safe? And in the context of rare diseases, we need to add the patient and caregiver's preference. But FDA said no. The FDA required additional control data. The FDA also acknowledged that data from a proposed randomized withdrawal period of C602, the extension study, would potentially suffice. A randomized withdrawal means we will flip a coin and half the kids will start getting placebo instead of DCCR, and we will look to see if there is a worsening of symptoms. A nightmare study. So the journey continues, and 77 patients from the open label extension went into the randomized withdrawal period. All of them completed the required follow-up on October 2023, and then came the results. With all the pain and suffering brought to us on October 2023, the results from this study were the only bright light. The difference between the groups was an astounding, statistically significant 5 points in the hyperphagia scale. In summary, the study achieved its primary endpoint, showed strong trends in the secondary endpoints, and a statistically significant difference in the objective endpoints of body weight and BMI. Are we riding into the sunset? Not yet. And you can see for yourself a few examples of the marked reduction in BMI from a few representative examples. The submission will go to FDA in a few months, and we could not have hoped for a better result from the study. But so far, FDA's review process has been too rigid. I hope, in light of these results, that FDA will use its full mandate, taking into account the established safety profile of DCCR, combined with the totality of data collected over the last 5 years, and approve the use of DCCR for our kids with Prader-Willi syndrome. The journey isn't over yet, and I would like to share with you some final thoughts as a parent professional. Drug development for rare diseases and syndromes is a painful journey. Patients and caregivers' preferences must be incorporated into the review process, likely as part of the risk-benefit analysis. There are wonderful people out there that are interested and willing to help. I would like to take the opportunity and thank Dr. Jennifer Miller, Anish, Neil, and the rest of the Soleno team, the leaders of FPWR, PWSA, and the PWS community in Israel. The military, Abimed, and most of all, being Eli's father, taught me that sometimes you don't have a backup plan, and winning is the only plan, and we will. Thank you.